Hey, my name is Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. We don't rely on fancy equipment for training, and most of us don't even have gym memberships. In fact, our motivation comes from within. You see, we have jobs, families, and responsibilities, but we still have big goals, and they aren't getting achieved at a global gym. For that reason, we have to do things differently. Our training has to be smarter. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man or a ton of time to train, and we don't need it, because we are achieving amazing things without it. So how do we do it? If you ask your average personal trainer or gym goer, they'd call us crazy. Yet we're seeing results better than most every single day. And it's happening by blending mental training with physical training and becoming an athlete. What we call, and welcome to, Garage Gym Athlete.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
How's it going?
Good. And Pat, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jared. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped to have you here today. So we're going to get into it right away with an intro from you. So tell us who you are, what you do for a living, how you train, all that good stuff.
All right. Well, my name is Pat Romero. Right now, living in Pensacola, Florida. I'm a flight school instructor down here in Pensacola. Right now in the Navy, and I grew up kind of as a garage gym athlete and also as an athlete racing bikes mainly. So I raced BMX ever since I was 9 years old.
That's
and
awesome.
I still, it's one of those sports that you could still do even right now as I'm 30. So it's been a good ride, and I've had some fortunate years and some unfortunate years. So,
I think Joe liked the irony of good ride.
Yeah, did nobody else get that? Pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. But for training wise, my dad, he kind of grew up in the 80s kind of bodybuilding movement. So he kind of equipped our house with his own garage gym.
That's
so
awesome.
as a kid, yeah, it was awesome. As a kid, I always saw him working out, and I tried to emulate him in every way. And then we would work out kind of together at some points, like when I first started, and then I just kind of took it on myself and did a lot of my own training in the gym. So I had this book, and I still have it to this day. It's somewhere in my room, but it's called Getting Stronger. And I remember that was like the first book that I ever kind of really got so engulfed in. And it had every sport. It was probably like 300 pages, and it was black and white, and it had all the different exercises and stuff. So obviously I picked up the biking portion of it, and then I would try to do all the workouts that they had for biking, which I thought was pretty fun. And that was kind of like growing up, that was kind of my thing was, training for my specific sport. So
That's really cool, man. So would you say your dad is the one who pretty much got you into fitness just through you watching and being able to train with him at an early age?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. He got me into it. And then, my competitive nature kind of through my teen years got me into like really kind of progressing through there. And then obviously, probably when you were a kid as well, looking at Muscle and Fitness magazines, he had a whole stack of them. So I'd go through his whole stack, probably like, again, from the 80s and 90s, but it was still like relevant information, I thought. So it was cool.
That is very cool. So when did you transition into or go to the Navy? Like how did you go about doing that?
So I actually went to the Naval Academy when
Okay.
I was 15. So there was actually a couple years where I didn't race, and I kind of just did whatever other little sports on the side at the academy itself. And
DTA.
then yeah, and then that was fun. It was a good experience, both the academy life, and then also seeing how everyone else kind of trains and stuff like that, and getting more fit kind of in different ways. And I actually became somewhat of a runner when I was there. I did a couple of marathons and kind of caught the bug for that as well. So.
And you are a naval aviator now?
Yes. Yeah. I'm a helicopter pilot. So in the fleet, I flew H-60s, and then now I'm flying the trainer helicopter.
That's really cool. Really cool, man. Well, Awesome background. I love that only the second person now who said, their dad had some sort of garage gym setup. And, I always talk about this great big experiment, I'm running here with 3 kids trying to get them more involved in fitness, but we're going to see how it turns out. So it's very encouraging when I hear that someone else kind of followed in their dad's footsteps by doing the home gym thing. So I think that's really awesome.
Sure. And I bet you, as yourself, being a father and me as a new dad, that's like one of the things that we try to stress, like even now, even though right now, my son's only 5 months old. But he has been, we've taken him to Asheville. We've taken him mountain biking there. We've taken him to Big Bear in California. We've gone hiking. I got like a little backpack for him. So he just hops in the back and we go hiking. But, and so recently we just started running a little bit. Well, I'd say a little bit, but my wife got me into a 100-mile challenge. So nice. Yeah, so he's done, right now I'm on like mile 25. So he's done all 25 miles with me.
So what's the challenge? Is it 100 miles with him on your back?
Yeah, no, I wish that would be a little bit tougher. It's actually just 100 miles for the month of November.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, or have to be walking, running, biking?
So I think it could be anyway, but I am just doing it via running. So okay. That's kind of my own challenge.
Nice.
And then I guess with him, it's the fact that he happens to be with me.
So what's the game plan right now? Are you doing like 3 or 4 miles a day? Like how are you conquering that?
Right. Yeah. I think I don't really have a plan, to be honest. Right now, we're actually doing an Xterra this weekend out here. So we've been kind of doing more sprint work and kind of running in that sense, and kind of trying to get faster. But I think once the Xterra is done, I'll start logging probably about anywhere from 6 to 10 miles a day, trying to catch back up. Right.
Yeah. Just don't let it lag too far. You got 90 miles the last.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, dude. Awesome. Well, so why start a garage gym, man? What led you into the garage gym scene?
I think it's so easy for me, especially, coming up, seeing how, the garage is right there basically in our garage. And then it shifted to, we had a barn. And so that was kind of where our garage was at.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so it just made it super easy. I also did wrestling growing up. So that was awesome to have a couple people over and we would just lift in the garage and kind of do our own thing for wrestling. But I think one of the biggest reasons is just time constraints, especially now with a child. It's so much easier to train in the garage. And then kind of what I wanted to talk about was while training for BMX specifically, we do a lot of plyometrics, a lot of kind of force and power type movements. So sometimes it required doing jump squats or just doing plyos. And in the regular kind of box gym, you can't really get those things side by side. You have to do your jump squats, but try not to make too much noise in one corner and then rush to the other corner to do the plyos. So in my garage, I have everything right there that I need, and it makes it super easy.
Especially military gyms, it's very, very segregated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then if you're the weird guy doing jump squats or doing plyos with, weights, people start looking, and it's just easier just to do it by yourself,
Yeah. Leave me alone. Let me do what I want to do.
Exactly. Right.
All right. So I'm curious, man. So being into BMX, and you're still doing it now, right?
I am, not as obviously, with the newborn and everything, not as much as before, but yes, a couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough I was switching from different commands. So I had a good amount. I took all my leave basically in between times. So I had about 40 days, which I had been training before that. And so one of the biggest things, one of my biggest goals was to qualify for the World Championships and then also do well at the World Championships. So my incentive for going to that year was my family's actually from Colombia, and the World Championships were held in Medellin, Colombia. So it was an awesome time to be able to see my family, which I haven't seen probably in about 10 years. And then and my aunts even came to watch the races, which was kind of funny to watch because they have never seen a bike race like that before. And for anyone that doesn't know, BMX racing, it's like a super intense 30 to 45-second course, usually with a big, like probably 5 to 7 meter downhill with probably about 25 to 30 foot jumps. We have asphalt berms, and then you have different sections that kind of take a little bit more technique and a little bit more, have a little bit more of a technical aspect to them. So for them, it's almost like watching like a NASCAR race with people on bikes, you know? So it was, my aunts were like super, it was just super intense for them to watch. So it was cool to see that. But so the training aspect, getting into it, I really wanted to focus on, you know, being able to have the time, which I did, and then kind of put my efforts into like max efficiency. So I did a lot of velocity-based training prior to that. So I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
Just velocity-based training, more dynamic in nature?
Yeah, exactly. So essentially I used this device that would help me kind of show me like how fast I'm squatting.
Oh yeah.
My biggest things was squat, and then also plyos was also a big thing. So I was able to kind of gauge, I had like a certain bar. So like before I did every workout, I did 155-pound squat just to see how fast I was going. And from there, it was basically testing my central nervous system just to see if I was well rested, you know, if I was ready to kind of tackle the workout that I had for the day. And then, you know, if it was slower than it was before, then I would adjust the weight accordingly. But basically I was always attacking a certain speed. So that was
kind of like a CNS tap test, but with a barbell.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did that, and then I would put on the weight that I needed for the speed that I was looking for. And basically, usually it was about 0.75 meters per second. That was kind of my zone that I was trying to hit.
Yeah, man, that's something I've been preaching for a long time, just in strength training in general. Is a lot of people work on, you know, raw strength. So let's lift something really heavy. And then a lot of people are doing submaximal work, which is just, you know, anything submax for a lot of repetitions, but who cares about speed or anything like that. And then that missing element that most people aren't doing, that pays probably the biggest dividends because it makes you more powerful, which is going to make you stronger, is that velocity-based training, the dynamic efforts, the speed work, and your strength. That's where true power is produced. Would you say that you are doing more advanced training than other BMX riders? Just out of my own curiosity, I'm not super familiar with the sports behind the scenes, but a lot of these skill-based sports, the missing piece I always see in other areas is like, dude, you're awesome, you're super skilled. Like if you were to just like get under a barbell, you'd be a lot better. Like what are you seeing in that community?
Right. No, I think I wouldn't say that I'm the norm. I would say that, you know, for the professional side, they definitely are on that same type program of producing power and stuff like that. And then for like kind of the more competitive amateur, I think some people are. But so my biggest limiting factor was my closest track that I had to me is 2.5 hours away. It's in Alabama. Yeah. So that made it really tough in the fact that like I could do sprint work on my bike. I can, you know, ride around, kind of work on some techniques, but to actually get on the track, which kind of pays the most dividends, I didn't have. So I kind of had to shape myself in a different way. And that was just having kind of a bigger like force multiplier, you know, coming down on the pedals basically.
And so how long have you been training in your garage?
I mean, I've been training in my garage ever since I've been, like I said, I've always been in a garage gym athlete ever since I was like probably 10, but my garage setup that I have now, I've had it for about 8 years.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome, dude. So, does your wife work out with you, train with you?
Yeah, she does actually. So we've been doing, so she just had the baby. So we've been doing a little bit of the shred, program. And then, she loves kettlebells. So we've been doing a lot of kettlebell workouts. And then she's the one that got me into this running thing. So we've been doing some,
I like it. I like the 100-mile challenge, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's middle of the month now, but maybe I'll pick it up.
Yeah. No, you definitely could. Never too
6
late.
miles a day.
Only if Joe does it with me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's really cool, man. So I'm assuming you've been doing it for 8 years. You must enjoy it. So what would you say some of the biggest challenges are?
I think some of the biggest challenges is always just kind of finding the time to, set aside to get in there. But once you have that, it's kind of seamless. Like, I'll be able to kind of prep, the outside stuff. So when I say time, I mean like extraneous stuff, whether it's work or, hey, it's late, I don't have any food, dinner set up or whatever, I try to kind of alleviate that whole fact and try to, put most of my effort to getting into the gym at least, once a day, if not every other day.
That's great, man. And so I guess doing it for a decade and really before that with just how you were raised, that's pretty awesome. So what would you recommend people do who do have the same struggle of just time constraints? Like, how are you positioning yourself to make sure you're getting in every day or every other day?
Yeah, definitely. I try to cook all my food ahead of time. So like dinners, lunches, whatever, I just try to, do the meal prep, and then try to, any like random chores or whatever, just try to kind of plan that for one day, just to kind of make sure it's all done. But I think like the biggest thing is just maybe even like having the energy. So trying to, keep a good diet that allows you that when you come home, you're not just zonked, you're able to have enough energy to go and work out a little bit.
Yeah. Maintaining energy balance throughout the day can be difficult because when you don't have any energy, motivation doesn't exist anymore. Right?
Exactly. That is exactly true. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you work? I mean, are you doing mornings or evenings? When do you train most of the time?
Most of the time I train in the evening because usually I'm a morning guy, morning flyer. So I'll fly in the morning, then come back around like 5 o'clock. And then that's typically when my wife is ready to go work out. So then we'll kind of go work out together.
That's cool. And so, I mean, garage gym's nothing new for you, but your wife, was this kind of a new thing to her? Like, did you guys like get married and you're like, oh yeah, so just so you know, the garage will always be a gym. Like how did that work?
That's exactly it. So whenever it's funny, I kind of call it my dojo. So she always, when we look at different houses or when we're looking at houses, she was like, well, this house doesn't have a dojo, so I don't think it'll work out. I'm like, I've trained you well. So yeah, the garage actually is like one of the biggest things for us as far as, having a place to live is, how big is it and will it fit all of our stuff? Because not only do I have like the workout equipment, but also we have like upwards of 10 bikes right now. Most of them are mine.
Damn.
Dude, and so I'm familiar with the weather. You're in Pensacola. I live not far from there. So not too bad, other than maybe some hurricanes and some humidity. Right. What kind of equipment do you have?
So I have a Rogue kind of setup. So Rogue bar, Rogue rack, with bumper plates, plyometric box, bench, kind of that whole setup. And then typically, especially like right now, we have Black Fridays coming up. So that's when I get most of my stuff.
We're all getting ready for it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's when all this stuff is kind of either super on sale or you find the best deals. have kind of gotten into getting more rings, more. I have like these little pull-up balls from Rogue where you set them up and you test your grip. So those have been awesome. And so that's kind of my setup. But like you mentioned, so the humidity is pretty bad here. And I mean, we have like 1 month of winter basically. So typically I have this giant blower fan that, you know, during the summer, just to kind of keep that on in the gym. That works well.
Yeah, that's I really enjoyed training in Florida, just in general. You would get absolutely drenched and lose like 10% of your body weight every workout.
Exactly.
But it was just something like it could even be like a light workout, but you just feel so accomplished after it's done compared to like, if it's really cold outside and you don't sweat that much, you're kind of like get finished and you're like, well, that wasn't the best. So I actually always enjoyed that in Florida, even though some people don't like it. I really enjoyed it.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. So what is the hardest workout you've ever done?
Hardest workout I ever done was actually on our deployment. One of my chiefs, he created this workout. It's called 1776. So we did it on July 4th. And it started with like a couple hundred squats, pull-ups, push-ups. And then he had a 400-meter row on the front and back side of it. And basically we did 1,776 reps of all variant things. So it took a couple hours, but it was awesome. And it was probably one of my most memorable workouts because all the air crewmen were there, a couple pilots were there, and all of us sweating in the hangar bay of the carrier, just getting it in. So it was awesome.
Oof.
Yeah, man. Anytime you're going over 1,000 with repetitions, it's going to be memorable.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
Building mental toughness. One of the biggest things is, I think, doing something that you don't want to do. So for instance, this 100-mile November, I think that was probably, I didn't want to do it at first. And, you know, my wife said, hey, I'm going to do this 100-mile challenge. Do you want to do it with me? I said, no. And then she said, okay, I guess I'm going to run by myself. And then I looked at her and I was like, no, okay, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to run every bit of this. So, and I'm not a runner, but it's definitely one of those things that it kind of takes a lot of kind of grit to get out and take 5 miles on the road, but it's been awesome so far. And it's kind of one of those things that I know when I look back and I'm like, hey, we accomplished this together. And it's just another one of those sort of hurdles that you kind of accomplish via your own mind, plus with someone else next to you. So it's awesome.
I think that's awesome. Especially the running piece, because I was thinking about biking, because I do a couple 20 to 25 mile bike rides periodically, maybe once a month, like on a Saturday or something. And so that wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah.
But if you're running 100 miles, like in a month, that's pretty serious, man. So
right. Yeah.
Now, if you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I think I'm going to go with kind of the subject and grab a mountain bike. You know, I have always kind of revered my mountain bike, and it's such a great tool because you can, you know, get in a very hard workout, or you get in a leisurely workout, but you're always climbing up something. You're going somewhere and kind of seeing a new place sometimes. So I think having that, and sometimes it's just fun to cruise around the bike, you know, if you're downtown somewhere. So I think the bike is kind of my number one tool.
Very cool. Very cool.
If you could add something to your gym, what would it be?
I think right now, probably another bar would do as well. We only have one bar right now. So I think having another bar or even some more kettlebells would definitely help out.
Practical.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you have an air gun yet?
I don't. And actually,
I think that would be.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be, I've been looking at them a lot, and they're awesome. I've definitely worked on some of them before. So.
All right, man. So a lot of garage gym athletes out there listening to this. So what would your best advice be for any current or future garage gym athletes?
Best advice is just grab a group of friends, grab significant others, and, you know, have kind of like a garage gym workout party. I have a buddy who sometimes hosts a Saturday workout at his house, and it makes it a lot of fun seeing all your friends and everyone's just kind of getting after it. And then it's just a good way to kind of spend time with your friends and family.
Yeah, the best way. Get to know who they are and have
Exactly.
some fun. And
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, man, it's been a blast having you on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.